From creatures of the Ice Age to actual humans being found in ice. Join me as I reveal to you 10 animals frozen in ice. 10 invertebrates in Antarctica. Let's start off this list with no legendary animal found somewhere in the world, but rather a look at a surprising find in one of the most desolate places on Earth today, Antarctica. The reason Antarctica is one of the most desolate places on Earth is because of its freezing cold temperature, one that is so cold that humans don't live there permanently and only a few research stations exist on the entire continent. Sure, there is life there, but usually it's overtly seen, like with penguins. But then, scientists discovered quite shockingly that there is a plentiful race of creatures living within the snowy mountains of the continent, mainly invertebrates, or creatures without a spine. And not just 2 or 3 of these creatures. They actually found about 67 different kinds of invertebrates living on the frozen tundra of Antarctica. Yes, they're small, tiny even, but they live there, and it's both fascinating and kind of weird how it all works out. If you're curious about what exactly has been found there, that would be the nematode worms, mites, the rotifer, the tardigrade, and the springtail. All different, all unique, all live in Antarctica, but there is a catch to this find that needs to be said. You see, because of the temperature of the land, they aren't exactly living all the time. If the temperature goes above the freezing point, they'll start to move around and go about their days. Yet when it drops, which is often, they'll hibernate for lack of a better term. Their moving period seems sometimes to only last an hour, if that, whereas their hibernation can sometimes last up to months. Now sure, they're not technically frozen in ice, but technically they are frozen in the natural sense, and they're found within the snows and ice caps of Antarctica itself. So yeah, it really counts. Plus, this opens up a whole new line of thinking in regards to what lives on the continent. Could there be even more life forms buried within the other snow and ice areas of the continent? What will it be if so? The research continues. Number 9. Woolly rhinoceros. The ice was a very important period of the world's history, and due to its extreme cold temperatures, there were a lot of animals eventually frozen in ice and under snow and other natural features. In the Siberian riverbank in Yakutia, a frozen river was the home of a woolly rhinoceros, a creature that once existed over 10,000 years ago, and for obvious reasons, it's around today. Ironically enough, this creature was found by a hunter named Sasha, and to honor the discovery that she made, they named the woolly rhinoceros after her. Very touchy. On the downer side of things, though, research discovered that Sasha, the rhino, not the hunter, was only 3 to 4 years old when she died and then got frozen in the river, which sadly makes it a baby woolly rhinoceros that was found frozen for many thousands of years. However, this is actually an incredibly rare find. You see, though scientists have known for years that the woolly rhinoceroses once existed, they could never find a full baby one to do research on. They've found partial remains in the past, but never a complete specimen. So that makes Sasha the woolly rhinoceros the only complete baby woolly rhinoceros to have been found in the modern age, making this find incredibly important to research and beyond. Sasha was later donated to the Yakutian Academy of Sciences in Russia. Just to be clear, because I'm sure you're thinking of it, the woolly rhinoceros is not a relative of the woolly mammoth. They lived in similar areas and times, but they're not overtly connected. The name relates to both because of the massive fur coats that they had in order to survive the cold. 8. Tumat dog. You might think that all the animals found in the ice from long ago are massive creatures that are almost fantastical in nature, but that's not always the case. For example, one creature found in ice near Russia was a 12,000-year-old dog. 2 brothers named Yuri and Igor Gorokov were out by the Sahalak River in Siberia on the hunt for woolly mammoth tusks, which, given what we know about frozen creatures in Russia and Siberia, is a safe money-making practice. Anyway, as they were doing their search, they soon came upon a dog frozen in the riverbanks. While it didn't exactly look like a dog when found, that was due to it being in the ground for 12,400 years. The scientists who are studying this canine have named it the Tumat dog, and they've been studying it for years. In 2015, a more in-depth study on the Tumat dog was allowed, and it revealed that its organs were perfectly intact, which often happens when certain creatures are frozen perfectly, not unlike cryogenics. Because of this, the Tumat dog is in fact the most preserved ancient dog to have ever been found. There's still a lot we can learn from it, including how dogs used to live 12,000 years ago, which may help paint more of a picture of the Ice Age and beyond. Before we continue, why don't you chill out for a sec and like the video, as well as subscribe to the channel so that you can see our weekly content. Number 7. The Tale of Two Foxes. If not clear already, ice is dangerous, and even in modern times it's easy to find yourself falling into ice-cold waters and freezing to death if you don't get out quickly enough. You'd think I'd just be talking about humans, but foxes, among other animals, are prone to this too. For example, a fox fell into a river in Germany, drowned, and was then frozen in place for all to see. Eventually, a hunter came along and saw the fox and decided in 2017 to actually dig it out of the river, still in ice mind you, and then put it on display at his hotel. No, for real, there are pictures and everything. There are so many things wrong with that sentence, mainly that he would use a frozen animal as a display for his hotel. Granted, it definitely is a unique item to have on display, but really? Come on, man. An interesting thing that the hunter noted, though, is that the fox wasn't the only animal caught in the river. According to him, he's seen deer and boar also trapped in ice there, again showing the dangers of the ice. Another man, this time in Sweden, was ice skating on a lake one time, and after dancing around on the ice, he too came upon a fox that was frozen in the lake. The difference there, though, was that the fox honestly looked like it was barely underneath the water when it froze, even having an expression of sadness, kind of like it knew it was dying. It's believed that the fox was walking across the ice, hit a thin patch, and then fell in. The temperature was likely so cold that the top froze over it before it could get out. It's sad, but it happens more than you would think. 6. Extinct lion cubs. Let's head back to the Ice Age, shall we? This time for some cats. In 2015, a pair of extinct cave lion cubs was found under a frozen sheet of ice in the region of Yakutia in Russia. And not unlike the woolly rhinoceros that we noted earlier on the list, these cubs were 10,000 years old as well. They were called Dina and Yuyan, and they too were very young when they died via being trapped in the ice. There is a twist on this, though, in that their bodies weren't just preserved by the ice, but by the cave they were in when they died. Scientists think that they were in a cave den when a landslide occurred and trapped them there, which is something that can happen even in the modern day. Because of the seal via the landslide, no air was let in or out, and without oxidation, the body is much slower to wither, and the ice came later and kept them even more preserved. So thus, when they were found, they were almost perfectly intact, a rare thing. Species-wise, these cave lion cubs were part of the Panthera spelaea, or European cave lion, pack. These two are the only complete ones ever found, as their fur and organs were all intact, allowing for much more research into what these cave lions were like. This, of course, also raises the potential of finding other extinct animals like this in caves that have been buried in snow. Number 5. Petrified mammals. And now, back to Antarctica. But this time for an ancient animal, in this case a mammal that we don't know much about. In 2009, the fossilized remains of a mammal was discovered. It was about the size of a cat, yet was one that laid eggs. Further studies stated that this was an ancient mammal that lived back around 250 million years ago. But just as interesting, this species is thought to have moved to Antarctica after leaving Africa when an extinction-level event hit the planet. The animal believed that Antarctica was the cooler place to go temperature-wise and thus left South Africa for it. Nowadays, it'd be the opposite, but the world wasn't the same back then. Many feel that this find further proves that Antarctica was once a tropical paradise before a cold snap occurred to turn it into the tundra we have now. 4. Bison. Northern Siberia is where we're off to next, where a very interesting bison was found, mainly an ancestor to the bison we see living around here today. This creature is known as a bison priscus, and it was found by a tribe of people in Siberia's Yana Indirka lowland. Not unlike the first two entries, the freezing climate of the land was the reason this bison was allowed to remain in mostly one piece, and after 10,000 years of being in the ice, its brain and internal organs were all preserved, which is an incredible feat that made many very happy. One of the scientists who studied the remains of this bison noted that because of how permafrost works, bodies like this bison's are usually eaten or destroyed, which makes this find, as well as the others, all the more important. Number 3. Elk. Elk are something that exists in our world today and are even hunted for sport, under guidance and laws of course. But because of their weight, they can find themselves sinking into ice. One such elk was found in 2014 near Bodo, Norway. Many believe that the elk was trying to cross the lake when the ice gave way. The elk was eventually found in Kosmo-Lakkar and Valensfjord by Inger Sjoberg, who was ice skating when he found the creature. Here's the catch though, the elk didn't sink all the way down. Part of its body and one of its antlers sticking out through the ice. Perhaps it couldn't stay down, or it floated to the top before the ice could reseal itself like it did for the foxes. Creepily enough, after Inger found the elk, news about it spread around, and now kids come to this site to see the frozen elk, which is creepy, and those kids should find something better to do with their time. Just saying. 2. Fish. When it comes to creatures that are used to the water and are likely to be frozen because they reside in it often, fish would be on the top of that list, right? But that's not the case. In fact, because of their time in the water, they can tell when it gets warmer and when it gets colder, and they leave the area when the temperatures drop just so they don't get frozen solid. Call it a byproduct of adaptation and evolution. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. For example, a bunch of carp and other fish were found frozen one time in 2015 in Lake Andes National Wildlife Refuge. The fish had apparently died and then were frozen in the ice. And one time in Norway, a lake dropped in temperature so fast that the fish couldn't escape in time, and thus they all died, frozen into the water in such a way that it looks fake, but it's not. It's just nature showing that it knows how to make fish chill out. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. So as you can see, even the creatures that live in water all the time aren't immune to being frozen in it. Number 1. Otzi the Iceman. I teased it in the opener, and now here it is, a case of a person getting frozen in ice. In 1991, two German tourists were going along the mountain pass on Hasselbjörk and Tissonjak when they came across a frozen body. Given the height they were at and the placement of the body, the two believed it was the body of a hiker who had gotten trapped in the snow, which is very plausible as hiking accidents like this do happen somewhat often. But that was not the case as they examined it further, for the body was old, and more importantly, it was mummified. They had accidentally found Europe's oldest and naturally found mummy, meaning that it wasn't made by human hands. It was later named Otzi because of the mountain in the Alps from which he was found. Naturally, because of the find itself, Otzi is highly coveted by the scientific community. They're looking over the mummy with a fine-tooth comb every chance they can get to learn even more about the person and about what Otzi can tell us about those ancient times. Thanks for watching, everyone. What did you think of these animals being frozen in the ice? Did any of them surprise you with their appearance? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.